It's been a while, people. Lyle's back, though. If you're excited to see one of the GOATs back on the podcast, you better like this video. I'm telling you right now, he's going to be back during football season, people. He'll be back, hopefully wearing that badass jacket a lot more because I'm not going to lie. I've told him already. I'm very jealous that he has it. But, Lyle, you've been to how many practices now?
I think I've been to 4 practices.
Okay. Does that include a scrimmage, too?
No, 5. Sorry, 5 in total. I've been to 5 in total.
Okay. So I think you're the perfect person to ask. I think we're going to jump right into this because I know what people want to hear from you most about, and it's the wide receivers. Of course it is. Of course it's the wide receivers, right? You and I were probably the most, I don't want to say harsh, but I think just realistic about the wide receiver position last year. You more so than me. You persuaded me onto your side where it was like, hey, like these guys just don't have it right now. Like they have to go out and address this off season. And I think they did in a large way, right? You go out and you land 2 Power 5 wide receivers that were starting for their respective programs, and Josh Kelly and then Caleb Payday Douglas. Don't forget the payday, Lyle. Don't forget the payday. It's not just a candy bar, it's a lifestyle. Yes, then you've also got, obviously, I don't know, the biggest talking point maybe in Texas Tech football since really Patrick Mahomes potentially, and 5-star wide receiver Micah Hudson. You return Coy Aiken, who we both like. You've got Dre McCray out there, who I think will be used better. But overall, in your opinion, Lyle, how do the wide receivers look, and how do you feel about what Texas Tech did to address the wide receivers this offseason?
I think it's a 2-part question for me, or a 2-part answer for me. I think first and foremost, what Kitley's done in the past. I don't want to speak on the future for the season starts, but what he's done in the past is with that tight end group, number one, and add in my man Jalen. He's a problem, and those other guys is already good, but he's a problem. So first and foremost, that group right there adds a different element, a different element to an offense and makes it hard. They can line them out, they can line them in, and even those other guys like Mason. Mason was great. Even Trey, he's a young freshman. Trey Jackson. I mean, that's a nice looking group. So I think that group is physical. They're strong. They're fast. They can catch, and it's depth. I think for the biggest thing is just having depth. And at Texas Tech, I feel like even when I played, our depth wasn't huge, but that's one thing that I felt like they've done a great job here. And then, moving to the receiver group, shout out Josh, he's him. And you were right. You said that. I didn't believe. I'm a believer. But, at the end of the day, he still got to show me on Saturday. And when I see on Saturday, I'll be all in. But as far as practice, I'm a believer on that guy. I think even Jordan Brown is a sleeper of the group. I really do. He made some plays. I think he's going to do more than what people think. And I think he's a sleeper. I think, Mr. Payday, he's really, really good too. He's big, he's physical. And I know I gave him a hard time last year, but Dre looked good out there. Coy looked good. I mean, they got a good group. And even those young guys, they got a good group. Could stay in there. They got open, made plays. So I'm excited to see them come do their thing. I think this is a better group than last year. I don't want to go and say this is the best group. I know we kind of dabbled in that last year. I wouldn't go that far, but this is a really good group that I think is going to do great. And so I'm excited to see these groups on these one-on-one matchups like we saw last year. I think people are going to come and try and see what they're about. And like I said, don't get me wrong, the first 3 games, I don't believe there's anybody that can come. They better not come try to do that, or it's going to be a long day for them. But when we get into those Cincinnati's, those West Virginias, those Oklahoma States, then we kind of get to see what these young men are about. But I think they've done a great job. You know how I feel about Kitley. And, I get, people give me a lot of slack, but I love him. I think he's freaking phenomenal. I think he does a great job with the things he has. I think they've done a great job overall. Even that quarterback room is deep, and I think they've done a good job. I think depth was the biggest thing as far as, at position. I think they've done a good job of getting people that make people compete. And if someone goes down, next person comes in. I feel really good about the next person up.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing too for me is I don't know if this is the most talented team Texas Tech has had in the past decade, but it's by far the deepest, right? And you're starting to see those waves of Joey McGuire recruits and their impact on the recruiting trail really start to pay dividends, and maybe not starting roles. There's some that they're obviously going to start at, but the depth that you talk about is absolutely critical because you think about what Texas Tech has done the past few years. And yes, I understand the quarterback is the most important one, but even depth at other positions was needed. You think about when Mason Tharp went down last year, you didn't have Baylor Cupp either. And you had guys like Jaden York at the tight end spot and the tight end group people. I'm glad you brought that up first, Lyle. Truthfully, I am so glad you brought up the tight ends because you do not know how many people are in the comments or my mentions on Twitter saying, I'll believe it when I see it when they use the tight ends. Listen, this is not your typical tight end group, people. No. This is different in the sense of this is arguably the best tight end group Texas Tech has had from a talent perspective.
I'll take it a step further and I say it is.
There you go.
I take away the argument. It is. And that's no shade to
they're going to be used, right? They're going to be used. Yes. I mean, the reason they weren't used last year, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Lyle, was because first and foremost, they were hurt. And then second, you had to use them as an extra blocker on the offensive line because the offensive line was so bad. So you didn't really get to see their true skill sets. This year, I don't think the offensive line is going to be leaps and bounds better. Like, they're not going to be a great offensive line. But even if they just get close to average, that's a big deal, like in terms of how bad they were.
And I want to say, like, because we have, you know, when you do your late night chats, which I love, and anybody –
they will be back this year. They will be back.
Get juiced up on. I want to apologize. The later the night goes, the more.
No, I love it. That's what they're there for.
You know, but y'all got to understand too. Like the guys that they're recruiting, it still comes down to those cats doing what they're supposed to do, and that's what, as Red Raider fans, y'all got to understand. If you go back and look at that 08 team, like there's 3 stars and 2 stars on the whole team. Joey McGuire has recruited way better than Mike Leach if you're going off of stars and rivals and hype. He gets 4 stars, 3 stars all the time. When we were there, we had Crabtree, I believe, Louis Vasquez, Graham Harrell, and other than that, everyone else, I believe, was 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star. So that's the one thing I want to throw out there. You guys got to understand, just because they're a 4-star, I played with many 4 stars that were poo cheese, and I played with many 2 stars that are freaking monsters. So y'all got to understand that at the end of the day, these cats have got to show up and do what they are doing. So don't get me wrong, you got to make coaching adjustments. But like I said, when you go get paid $25,000 a year and you're on scholarship and you got new buildings and you get food whenever you want it, you better show up and play. So I just want to give that disclaimer out to you fans out there, and I'm a fan too now. But those guys got to show up too. So make sure you distribute that evenly, coaching and kids. So there's a lot of plays as a coach that I call that suck that good players make them work. So I think that's a big one too. And I think that Coach McGuire, when we're talking about recruiting, not to go off track, if you look at him and Mike Leach, he's recruited way better cats than Mike Leach did, way better than Tommy Tuberville, way better than Matt Wells. So I think he's done a fantastic job. But like at the same time, just because you're a 4-star don't mean you play like that on Saturdays. So these cats got to show up and show out. So sorry to interrupt you, brother. There.
No, you're good. Well, speaking of a high-ranked recruit, I think people want your opinion on Micah. And I want to preface what we're about to talk about because I think, and I've been guilty of this. I'll be hand up. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it in the sense of when I see a 5-star wide receiver, I just get excited, right? Like there's part of me where it's just like, and rightfully so. But I also think that you have to understand he is a freshman coming in and playing at a Power 4 level. Do I think Micah Hudson is a really good football player? Duh. Do I think he's going to come out and break records as a freshman? No, I don't. But do I think he's going to be an impact player for the Red Raiders? Yes. So I wanted to lay that out there. And then, Lyle, I just kind of want your thoughts on Micah. He's coming back from an injury. You've seen him a few times. He's the talk of camp, right? Like it's either him, Taj, or Micah. Like, I mean, like that's just really what it is, right? And so what are your thoughts on the limited time you've seen Micah? Because I think that it's hard to totally, say like, hey, he's going to be, week one, he's going to come out and he's going to be everything you want. I don't think that that's realistic for an 18-year-old, regardless of if they're a 5-star, right? But I do think he's going to be an impactful player. Do you think the same from what you've seen, or?
Yeah, and like I said, before I get started, as a freshman, he's 10 times better than me. So I want to throw that out there before we start. But like I said, I think he's a great receiver. His highlights are phenomenal. I think he has the ability to, if he has the ability to score 12 touchdowns this season. He has the ability. Now, if he does it, that's a different story.
I'm taking notes right now for you,
Yeah.
bud.
Yeah, take them notes, brother, and scratch. Make sure you have some white out in case they don't. But I think he has the ability to score 12 touchdowns. Now, will he? Do I think so? No. I think he's explosive. He can get off the press. He can catch the ball. He can do all that. But I think he's on the learning curve too of realizing it, and that's one thing as a receiver I had to learn. Like, dudes are faster, dudes are stronger, dudes are smarter, and I think the biggest thing is smarts. Like, especially when I got to go to the NFL and I play guys, and I'm like, my favorite story I ever tell is when I went against Champ Bailey. Like, Champ was telling me my routes, and I scooted in, I scooted out, I stood still, I fixed my feet. He still knew what I was doing every time. He's called me young grasshopper and telling me what routes I was running while he was jogging to where I was supposed to be. So I think this that learning curve of those guys are smarter. They know if you line up way wide, you're probably not going outside. So I think it's kind of understanding your alignment, understanding how to kind of be smart in your own way. Like I said, I've seen him make some phenomenal catches. I've seen him drop some easy balls. So I think it's one of those things. He's just going to grow and get better and better. But if he's everything that was advertised, I 100% agree with that. I just think people got to understand it's as he comes to a better place, you got to adjust. I said the same thing about Dre last year, and I love Dre. I want to say that Dre is probably one of my favorite people on the team, him and B. Mort. But Dre comes to talk to me, and I was hard on him last year. You know that I was hard on him, and he came and talked to me and was like, "Hey, man, appreciate you," and he's gotten better. But I think I don't want to say he's gotten better. I think he's just adjusted to where he came from. He was the fastest person. When you come up to the Power 5, you're not going to be the fastest person 90% of the time. And if you are, you're a Jakeem Grant, Tyreek Hill. That's very rare that you're just going to run past everybody on every play. So I think it's going to take time to adjust and get better. But like I said, if he scored 12 touchdowns, would I get on this podcast and be like, oh, I can't believe it? No, I can believe it. But I think he's going to have to grow. And I think what helps him too in a big case is going to help him is Mr. Kelly. I think Mr. Kelly, like I said, 10 times is him. And I think that's the part that people fail to realize. When three people's on Crabtree, you get your one-on-ones. My sophomore year, no one guarded me because everybody's on Crabtree. But senior year, I got the two people, and other people were getting a chance to do their one-on-one. So I think it's working in his favor with the receivers we have. And then like the second part with depth, when you've got four good receivers and you bring somebody in like Dre, and Dre could be a starter, I don't know, but you bring him in, then someone's tired and Dre's running down the field with all his energy. It makes it tough. So I think he's everything as advertised. I think we got to be understanding and know he's going to drop some balls. I'm assure you. He's going to get some routes where he doesn't get open, but he's also going to make some phenomenal plays. He's also going to get open. And like I said, he's a physical cat too. So that was probably the biggest thing for me blocking. Like I didn't block to my senior year. So he's a freshman and he's blocking people. I think that plays a big part in his game. So I think the physicality of Texas Tech has gone up. And like I said, it's Coach McGuire and his staff and his energy. Like I said, I copied him. I posted a picture the other day. I put energy on my hat because I love it.
Love it.
He went out there with the energy, and I'm like, dang, I gotta up my game. Come out here, and but I think he's everything that's advertised. But man, I hope these fans and everybody, man, is also patient with him and don't put him in a, and people don't realize even with Crabtree, his freshman year he didn't play. This really his sophomore year when he came before he started doing work, and something happened where he didn't get to play, and sometimes I look back he did play that freshman year like he was supposed to. Would he have won the Blitnikoff? You know, and that's not to say he wouldn't, and I'm not going to say it because he might be listening to this, but, you know, you never know what would happen if he just came off that fresh year. That year makes a big difference each year you go. So I just hope everybody understands that and knows his potential. Like I said, he's everything is advertised. So I'll probably snap if I hear somebody say he's trash or anything like that, or why are we paying him 5-star. So just beware. And if it's a night chat, get off because I'm coming for you.